Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuce, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Monday, fun day, gun day. Check it out.
I stop what you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the image of me that you're used to. I look money, a king bee making honey, see? Each state, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round, I'm the new sheriff in town. All my people rise up and stand your ground. Now drink up all the Diet Coke you got on your shelf. So just let me introduce myself, my name is Trump D. I like my mashed potatoes lumpy. Fake news, oh how I like to punk thee. That little sniper on the slope tin, he took a shot but he missed me. I don't fall, y'all, I'm like the ever-ready bunny. Still going strong and spunky. So put on your big boy pants. Come on, let's do the dance.
The Trumpy dance is your chance to do the Trump.
Come on, do the Trumpty Trump. Come on and do the Trumpty Trump. Check me out, y'all. We do the Trumpty Trump. Just watch me do the Trumpty Trump. Yeah. Do you know what I'm doing? We do the Trumpty Trump. Come on, everybody do the Trumpty Trump. It's time to do the Trumpty Trump. Yeah. My favorite dish is a double Big Mac, cause I find it quite delicious. I eat up all your fries cause it's scrumptious. Hey yo, my squirrel, Peanut, are you listening? Yeah, they took you out like a rat. Why they treat you like that? It never would've happened, not with me. And yeah, it's safe to assume the communist agenda gonna end up in a tomb. Whoa, crazies, I always really phase me. You never catch me cause you're just too lazy. Now join me and my homie Vance, cause this is how we do the dance.
Trumpy dance is your chance to do the Trump.
Come on, do the Trumpty Trump. Come on and do the Trumpty Trump. Check me out, y'all. We do the Trumpty Trump. Just watch me do the Trumpty Trump. Yeah. Do you know what I'm doing? We do the Trumpty Trump. Come on, everybody do the Trumpty Trump. It's time to do the Trumpty Trump.
That's right. Doing the Trumpty Trump on a Monday because, well, I know that somewhere in the world there is a Trump derangement syndrome having leftist that is completely and utterly losing their minds because somehow they just kind of happened upon this blog, they just happened upon this program, and I got to I got to allow them to experience that. Now, I'll tell you, the first time I have a chance to experience something like this, well, it was election night 2016, and admittedly, I was not a Trump voter. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I was like everyone else. Not everyone else, but I had some issues because I felt like he wasn't gonna. I wasn't convinced he was gonna govern like a conservative. And being from California, I realized my vote really didn't matter because they were going for Hillary anyway. Anyway, all that having been said, I walk into an election night event party, yada yada yada, and everybody in the room who was of the left was completely and utterly losing their minds, and it was phenomenal. It really was. To watch as, they literally fell apart. Anyway, it was fun. So any little chance I get to kind of needle them a little bit, I enjoy. And this is, the Trumpty dance on Mondays is a great way to needle those with whom you might take issue. Of course, if you're tuning, like I said, if you're tuning into this program, chances are you don't take issue with that perspective, but that's okay. Mike got called in, so Mike is not going to be with us today. So it's just going to be us here, but we're going to have a good time. Let's start off with a quick, as we usually do, with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries. Hitman Industries, where they make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length. If you've purchased an AR in the last few years, there's a good chance you already have one of their rifles. So why not get another one, or have one of their barrels? Why not get another one? Just go to hitmanindustries.net. Then you've got the California Republican Assembly, working to help elect conservatives at all level of government, from school board all the way up to president of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. Won't you check them out today at cragop.org? If you want to be a part of California's future today, which means their conservative future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. Just go to HAWGholsters.com. Why is it HAWG? Because they like to help Americans wear guns. Go there, check them out. If you like what you see, then make sure that you buy from them. When you do, make sure you use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, just like it is right up there, and you're going to get a discount on us. And then finally, the place to go to get all your tactical gear is uscombatgear.com. They have a huge selection. They have competitive pricing, and by the way, specialize in group sales. So if you have a group, you have an agency, you have a company, whatever it is, you need to go there. You need to check them out. They have all things tactical except the gun. uscombatgear.com. Also, would like to encourage you, if you're watching this program live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, on one of our many channels. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we are on Rumble. We're out there, folks. We are all over the place. Do us a favor, man. Go ahead and chime in. We would love to hear what you have to say. We'd love to get a shout out. Find out from whence you are watching this program. Right? Make sure you do that today. Go ahead and just know that you don't have to be in agreement with me in this particular case, in order for us to have it. I mean, all I really ask is that you are interesting. And it's also good if you're interesting, because if you're interesting, that opens the door for us to mock you.
Oh, wow. Is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
Yep, that's right. It opens the door for us to mock you. And we don't mock you because you're trying to be cruel. We just do it because it's fun. It kind of is. Anyway, all that having been said, I also want to encourage you, if you are going to be in Las Vegas for SHOT, and I'm assuming if you're watching this program, you're at least somewhat into gun rights. Although we do talk about conservative stuff, we do a lot of gun rights, talk about a lot of gun rights stuff here. But if you're going to be at SHOT, would love to have you visit us, hang out with us at SHOT Show. We're having a pre-SHOT Show party on Monday, January 19th. That's going to be at the Hofbrauhaus there in Las Vegas. It's going to be from 7 to 10 p.m. Completely free event, which includes free beer, which includes free swag, which includes free snacks, and tons of prizes to win. Come on out and join the folks over at Arms Room Radio, Next Level Training, Imperium Strategic Group, Hog Holsters. You've got Riding Shotgun with Charlie, Hitman Industries, 2A News, Lion Arms, The Rundown. Folks, we are right2beararms.com, right2bear.com. We will all be there. We will all be having a good time. And if you get a chance, visit these organizations' websites and thank them for sponsoring the party, because they're the ones who help make sure because while the beer may be free to you, that does not mean that the beer is totally free. So Dave's hooking us up. They're hooking you up, hooking us up. Anyway. All right, let's get into today's news. I'm going to start with Minnesota. You might have seen everything that's been going on, from the shooting that took place to the increased enforcement that's taken place as a result of the fraud seemingly by Somali immigrants, or at least the disproportionate amount of fraud that's been taking place in Minnesota, in particular Minneapolis, Minnesota, as a result of the uncovering of fraud by, in particular, Somali immigrants. And once again, I'm not saying they're the only ones who were involved in the fraud, but when all but 8 out of 84 people who are tried and convicted are Somali immigrants, one has to start to raise the question: okay, well, what else? What other crimes are being committed? And if among them is illegal immigration, so in other words, you have people who are in the country illegally and also, by the way, stealing taxpayer dollars, well, then perhaps it's a good idea that we get those folks out of the country. I don't know. I don't think that's a bad idea. Many people on the left, not so much. They seem to think that, well, why wouldn't we just let them? Why wouldn't we just let them be here? Why wouldn't we just let them have what they want and do what they want, even though they're here in this country illegally? I don't get it. I know most of you out there don't get it either. But that does seem to be the way that some folks seem to think. They seem to think that, well, just because they came from a country where things are kind of tough, that they ought to be able to get to do whatever it is that they want to do. And that is why, in no small part, that's why they are suing. You have Minnesota, Twin Cities are suing Trump administration over widespread immigration operations. And this is being reported by CNN, so let's keep that in mind when we're listening to the tenor of the article, or the tone of the article. Tone and tenor. There you go. The state of Minnesota and the Twin Cities are suing the Trump administration, arguing the unprecedented federal immigration operation in the state is a federal invasion, and seeking a court order halting the crackdown, according to a lawsuit filed Monday. Quote, this has to stop. It just has to stop, end quote. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison said at a Monday news conference announcing the lawsuit. It was filed shortly after Illinois and the city of Chicago also sued the Trump administration, alleging the Department of Homeland Security has terrorized residents in organized bombardment. The suit argues the federal government is violating the 10th Amendment by unlawfully commandeering state resources, interfering with Minnesota's authority to govern, and disregarding state law and city ordinances. CNN has reached out to DHS for comment on Minnesota's lawsuit. The federal government initially launched Operation Metro Surge, an immigration crackdown in the Twin Cities in December to target undocumented Somali immigrants, but it also led to the arrest of immigrants from other nations. About 1,000 additional Customs and Border Protection agents are expected to deploy in Minneapolis, according to two federal law enforcement sources. The agents started deploying Friday and continued over the weekend. One of the sources said, coming on the top of deployment of 2,000 federal agents in that area that CNN reported early last week. Quote, as long as federal agents in our city act unconstitutionally against our neighbors, we will continue to push back with everything we got. Democratic Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said at a news conference. Now, okay, so let's break this down here. You want to know why they are there? Let's be real. First of all, let's be clear. They are there to enforce the law. They are there to enforce federal law. They're not trying to enforce local law. They're trying to enforce federal law. They are being engaged by citizens, some non-citizens, but by residents, discouraging them from being there, and in some cases, delaying or obstructing them in the performance of their duties. Now, I use that term very specifically because when you delay or obstruct an officer, in this case, a federal officer, it is a federal officer. It is a felony. You are in the midst of committing a felonious act. Now, having said all that, local law enforcement, well, let me be real clear. The local politicians don't want local law enforcement anywhere near it. In other words, when these crowds are descending upon these agents, when they are ramming them with their cars, when they are throwing things at them like bottles and rocks and snowballs and stuff like that, the local officials don't want anything. In fact, they want people to be out there. They want them to push back. They're like, what they're saying is that the ICE agents being there doing their jobs is inciting people to riot, so therefore they should not do their job. See, that is an asinine position to take. They are there to do their jobs. If people want to get in the way of them doing their jobs, then they need to pay the price for getting in their way. In this particular case, a felony means you get arrested. If you attempt to flee, you should be arrested for 2 felonies. And oh, by the way, if you happen to hit a federal officer with your car, you've committed a 3rd felony. And if in the midst of that you appear to be going after that individual, if it seems like that individual feels like you are about to cause them harm, then do not be surprised when you wind up catching a hot one, as appeared to be sadly the case with Miss Good. Yeah, she caught a hot one because she decided, once again, she drove 5.5 hours so that she could commit the felony of obstructing or delaying a police officer in the performance of his duty. She did. How do we know she did that? Because they have her on video. More than 3 minutes, she is blocking the street. She's letting people go through who are not ICE agents, but she won't allow ICE agents to pass to go and do their jobs. That's felony number 1. Felony number 2, when she decided, when they came to her to apprehend her or engage her or confront her regarding her felonious act, she decided to flee. How do we know she was trying to flee? Because her partner said, flee. That's what she said. She backed the car up. Seemed like she was trying to get up out of there. Well, That's a second felony. And as she was trying to get out of there, she hit a federal officer with her car. That is assault with a deadly weapon. Assault with a deadly weapon. Guess what? That's felony number 3. She is would have been a 3-strike loser had the agent not shot her. Now, once again, I will continue to say this. This woman did not have to die. It's a tragedy that a mother of 3 is now dead. But it's mostly because of her actions and the choices that she made. Right? It's mostly because of that. And she put this officer in a position where he had a split second to decide, is this lady trying to kill me or do me harm? As her car is coming right at him. Well, he took the action that he deemed necessary. And when it's all said and done, I guarantee you, no one's going to have any problem. Not nobody. It's going to be deemed a good shoot. And the left is going to lose their minds about it. I still don't understand when I watch it how you could even say it wasn't a clean shoot. But anyway, there are people who know far, far less about this than I do, who seem to think that they are experts. And I know I'm not an expert, but I did consult experts. I did consult people who know what they're talking about. And the only experts that I know of that have even hinted that this might not be a good shoot are ones who just hate law enforcement. They are just people who hate law enforcement. And therefore, I may consider them experts in the area of firearms, but maybe not necessarily law enforcement use of force, because they're just a little biased. Anyway, if you want to see that, go over to 2A News, and you can see I had Rob Pincus on the program, and I specifically chose Rob because Rob is more center left. He's not a Trump supporter. I'm pretty sure he doesn't support some of these things that the administration is doing. A lot of things the administration is doing, but I wanted someone who we could talk about use of force and do it from a perspective that was not that of a Trump supporter. And he did. And I thought, once again, in the end, I believe he said, look, were there things that DOJ could have done, that the officers could have done better? Yes. Were there things where their training, a different training could have helped them? Yes. When you look at the situation and what happened and the situation that the officer was put in, is it going to be deemed a clean shoot? Yes, it's going to be deemed a clean shoot. And I don't know why anyone would have any problem with that, but obviously there are people who do because they don't know. But anyway, but here's the funny part. Now, in dealing with all of this and suing over the immigration operations, you got Chicago doing the same. Here is what people are out there protesting, right? I want you to understand, here is what people are out there protesting, and here's what they're suing over, right? Now, the big number you keep hearing people say out there is that, well, only 5% of the people who are being deported have violent crimes, right? 5%. And they're like, that's not enough. I thought he was going after the worst of the worst. Well, when you look at the numbers, it's about 5% are violent felons, meaning rape, murder, a strong-armed robbery, yada, yada, yada. But there's also a total of 26%. There's another 26% who are charged with nonviolent crimes. So when you have 26% with nonviolent crimes, right? That's things like check fraud. That's things like embezzlement. That is things like, in some cases, drug dealing, right? If it's a nonviolent drug offense. There's a bunch of things that are crimes that are nonviolent, right? So it's 26% that have been, by the way, tried and convicted. Tried and convicted, meaning they've already committed the crime. We know they've been committed the crime because they've already been found guilty. Then there's another 26% that have been charged with crimes. And that's across the board. There's rape, murder, burglary, yada, yada, yada. They just haven't been convicted yet, right? And then the remaining something like 47% are people who are simply in the country illegally. Some, and they don't really distinguish how many, already had active deportation orders, meaning they're already supposed to be out of the country. It's already been said, y'all supposed to be gone. They don't distinguish that from the ones who don't already have deportation orders. But then they say, well, gosh, it's only 5% and 47% of them are people who are here and they're just fine. Well, let's break it down just based on the sheer number. Let's do the real numbers, right? Let's talk about the real numbers, right? So if 200,000 once again, I don't have a direct number, but they're saying about 200,000 people have been deported, right? So if 200,000 people have been deported, that's 10,000 violent criminals, 10,000 rapists, 10,000 robbers, 10,000 burglars, 10,000 child molesters, 10,000 murders gone from the country as a result of these efforts. 10,000. Why would you protest against that? Right? Another 52,000 have been convicted of some sort of crime. Now, some of them, yes, are traffic, but if they're traffic, it's still a more serious crime if it's considered a crime. If it were an infraction, they would just say, oh, well, it was speeding. We're talking reckless driving. We're talking DUI. Right? Those are the major. So we're talking major infractions, or in this case, could be misdemeanors or felonies. But 52,000 illegal immigrants who are in the country and have committed crimes, have been convicted of crimes. Then you got another 52,000 that have been charged with crimes. 52,000. So let's see, we're at 104, add the 10K, 114,000 criminals and accused criminals have been deported. And the rest, by the way, the other 94,000 are either, they're here illegally, but they may or may not have an active deportation order against them. Why would you protest against that? Why is that so bad? See, when you say 5%, well, it's only 5% of them. That's 10,000 criminals. Tell you what, how about we drop that 5% in New York? How about we drop that 5% right there in Minnesota? How about we drop that 5% in Illinois? 10,000 rapists, murderers, burglars, child molesters, drop them right in your neighborhood. How do you feel about that? No? No likey? Exactly. But folks, let's be real. That's what they're protesting. Now, they're saying, well, we're not protesting that. We're protesting their tactics. Well, here's the thing. When you have a group of people who are, number one, in the country illegally and feel like they are entitled to be here because the media and Democrats have encouraged them to be here, to stay and to fight. You're encouraging these folks to fight. When you talk about, well, they're arresting citizens, they're killing U.S. citizens. No, they're killing people who are attacking them. You attack a federal officer, you get what you get. You had the police chief from Chicago made it very clear, if you attempt to box in an officer, they have every right to believe that you are trying to ambush them, and they will defend themselves, and they will defend themselves violently. And you should expect them to. I would expect them to. Nah, but for some reason, y'all seem to think, well, she just grazed him with her car. Tell you what, why don't you stand in front of my car? Let's see if you're going to assume when I come barreling forward at you, if I'm just there to graze you. If grazing you is okay. If the difference in a 1 inch turn of my steering wheel is the difference between me grazing you and me mowing you down. Let's see if that's enough for you to feel like, yeah, I don't really need to defend myself. Anyway, that's what they're suing over. That's what Democrats are defending. That is sincerely what they are defending. Now, many of them don't know that's what they're defending. At least the ones who are out there protesting, they don't know because they're not really paying attention. Or they've bought into the media narrative. I can't believe the number of people that I'm seeing online who have seen all 3 and 4 videos that have been released that show her blocking the street, deliberately obstructing, not just there, just kind of as a whim, trying to get home. No. The ones that show her, the one that shows her mocking police officers dancing in her car with her partner basically saying, yeah, we're here to mock you. And then the one which specifically shows her attempting to flee and then hitting the officer. And you can see from the one angle, the far away angle, you can clearly see she hits him. Now, if it hadn't been for the fact that there was ice on the ground, I sincerely believe, and once again, I'm no expert, but I believe what I see that his foot came out from underneath him because there was ice on the ground. Had that been hard concrete, he might have been run over. That is a distinct possibility, and you got to think he's thinking the same thing as he's dealing with this situation. Anyway, I just the fact that Democrats are doing this, that they're talking about this, is beyond frustrating. That they're suing, and in the end, it's going to come out in court that he is doing exactly what he needs to do. In particular, because in some cases, law enforcement is refusing. Well, when they talk, let me go back. When they talk about him trying to seize local resources, he's not trying to seize local resources. Their citizens are acting asses and going after these guys. They're attacking these officers. And so local law enforcement who has, by the way, a legal duty to help defend those officers, are coming and helping to defend them. And by the way, in most cases, they want to be there and they want to help. I happen to believe. Anyway. And then you got folks over at the DNC, and this is the real funny part. Is you got folks over at the DNC who are literally kind of comparing these folks. They're comparing them to Iran. They're literally trying to compare what is going on in some of these places to what is going on in Iran. This being reported by the New York Post. DNC chair Ken Martin disturbingly compares U.S. to Iran, claims Trump administration is killing protesters. Democratic National Committee Chairman Ken Martin likened mass protests in Iran to demonstrations in the U.S. over the fatal shooting of Renee Good by an ICE agent Sunday, accusing both governments of terrorizing communities. Martin, who led the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party for 14 years before being elected DNC boss, this past February, claimed that both countries are killing protesters and declared that Minnesota won't be silent. From Tehran to my birthplace of Minneapolis, people are rising up against systems that wield violence without accountability, Martin posted on X. In Iran, brave protesters confront a far-right theocratic regime that crushes dissidents and denies basic freedoms, he continued. Here at home, tens of thousands are marching after the fatal ICE shooting of Renee Good, demanding justice, transparency, and an end to unchecked federal force. At least 544 people have been killed, and more than 10,681 arrested by the Islamic Republic since demonstrations began December 28th amid deepening economic crisis roiling the Shia regime, according to U.S.-based human rights activist news agency. All right, so I think right now, first of all, we already see a couple of issues here with the comparison. One, they are marching in the streets in Iran because the economy is crashing. They don't have any food. Electricity has been shut off. They have no internet now because that's been shut off. They're protesting in Iran because their government is an utter failure. And their government is an utter failure. Well, we can get into, there's tons of reasons for that. But then they try to call, a far-right theocrat, because you have to kind of make it sound like, they're like Republicans. Well, no, because see, Republicans believe in freedom, right? They believe in allowing people, they believe in free enterprise. They don't believe in free enterprise there in Iran. They don't. They don't believe in we believe Republicans believe in people, all people being free in individual rights. There, they do not believe in individual rights. They believe they are a theocracy. They believe that you have the right to do what Allah tells you to do. That's what they happen to believe. In any case, and then you have the comparison. Over 500 people, protesters, have been killed over there. How many protesters have been killed over here? How many? Yeah, exactly. Now, by the way, the ones who have been shot over here, shot for one reason, killed for one reason. They were attacking officers. And in multiple occasions, like Renee Good, were attempting to run them over with her car. Now, I'm not saying I believe she was, but I do believe that he thought she was, because she was coming right at him and she hit him. That is not an unreasonable assumption. If she didn't want to get hit or she didn't want to get shot, here's a couple of clues. Number one, don't delay or obstruct a police officer in the performance of their duty. Don't block the street. Don't block ICE agents in the middle of the street with your car. A felony. Don't try to flee federal agents when they try to apprehend you for committing that first felony. That's a second felony. And then once again, if you're not fleeing, then you're obviously not going to be hitting a federal agent with your car. I don't understand why this is so hard for people on the left. Oh, I know. Keep forgetting, Orange Man bad. Yeah, in the end, that's what it all comes down to, is Orange Man bad, and therefore no other logic really need be applied. Meanwhile, in New York City, oh, gotta find that one. In New York City, get a rope. Okay, I keep saying I'm gonna get that. I'm going to find that old commercial. I'm gonna play that every time we talk about New York City and Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Mamdani. Now, you remember he just hired a new affordable housing czar, right? Well, it turns out his affordable housing czar has some ties to affordable housing project, which, by the way, Mamdani touts as, look, this is the reason, this complex right here that she ran, this is the reason why we need to have her as our affordable housing czar. It says here, affordable apartment complex in NYC, Mayor Mamdani showcased has nearly 200 slumlord-like violations. That is the conclusion of an exclusive New York Post investigation of the nonprofit-owned and operated building in Morris Heights that the newly elected mayor cited to highlight the talents of his new housing commissioner, Dina Levy. Quote, the 102-unit building at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in Morris Heights as of Saturday had a staggering 194 open housing code violations dating back to 2016, including 88 Class C violations considered immediately hazardous, the Post reported Sunday, citing city records. Mamdani visited the affordable housing complex on January 4 to introduce Levy, 54, whom the report described as a longtime tenants' rights advocate and former state housing official, naming her Housing Preservation and Development Commissioner. Levy, who reportedly will be paid $277,605 annual salary, helped make the 2011 deal for nonprofit Workforce Housing Advisors to buy and rehab the Sedgwick Avenue complex from private landlords. Tenants, however, aren't so happy with their nonprofit landlord and say things were better when the apartment building was privately owned. Quote, since the nonprofit took over, the building has deteriorated. 25-year-old tenant Mordestine Alexander, 49, told the Post. 25-year tenant. Okay, there you go. Not 25-year-old tenant. 25-year tenant who's 49 told the Post. They lack porters. No one is maintaining it. And the complaints fall on deaf ears, especially if you complain a lot. She has a lengthy list, renting her three-bedroom apartment since 1999. She said the unit routinely has no heat or hot water and has a crumbling bathroom and kitchen, and its windows need to be replaced. Alexander is among dozens of tenants whose units have open HPD violations. She also complained the nonprofit does a poor job of screening potential renters, which apparently has resulted in difficult neighbors. And I'm assuming that if y'all have ever had a difficult neighbor, I'm pretty sure you probably know what she is referring to. Once again, the point here, once again, being that this is what happens when you allow the government to run things. In this case, it was a nonprofit, but whenever you limit what you can charge and you don't cover your cost to be able to fix things up, to be able to properly run it, well, then it's not properly run. What will wind up happening when the city starts taking over properties? Oh, yeah, rents will stay down, but you're going to see a bunch of apartments aren't going to be worth renting, right? You're going to see that a lot of them are going to become deteriorating. You're not going to have hot water. You're not going to have heat. Your apartment is going to crumble around you. And when you complain, you will get nothing. That's how it works. That's how she ran the nonprofit. How do you think she's going to run it when the city does it? Because see, the city doesn't have their own money spigot. Their money spigot is the people. And when the people decide they're not going to have their money wasted, they're going to pull their money. This is not rocket science. Once again, this is not hard to figure out that this is going to happen. Anyway, this is also what happens when, once again, DEI becomes your number one way in which you hire people. In this particular case, he's going to hire his crony, who happens to be a female, happens to be a liberal, but he's going to hire his liberal friends, his progressive friends, and they're going to employ their philosophy, their theories that they, by the way, they've never been able to make work. That's going to be a bad one for them. All right, SCOTUS to hear case dealing with transgender athletes. I know plenty of you out there are saying, finally, they're going to address the issues. They're going to address the issues that need to be addressed. I'm trying to find the article here on it. Anyway, so they're going to be taking up a case. There we go, found it. Okay, this is being reported by the folks over at CBS News. Supreme Court to step into long-term simmering debate over transgender athlete bans. The Supreme Court on Tuesday is set to consider whether states can forbid transgender athletes from competing on girls and women's sports, stepping into a high-stakes fight that has been simmering for, well, a few years. This hasn't been a big thing for a long time. They act like, this has been a thing for decades. No, it's really hasn't been that long. Anyway, 27 states have enacted laws that prohibits transgender athletes from participating in girls and women's sports. President Trump signed an executive order in February that directed his administration to strip federal funding from programs that allow transgender males, and women, male, boys and men, to compete on athletic teams that correspond to their gender identity. Well, they correspond to the gender they perceive themselves to be. On the heels of that directive, the NCAA updated its participation policy for transgender student athletes, limiting competition in women's sports to only athletes assigned female at birth. Then, last July, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee effectively barred transgender women from competing in women's teams. The Supreme Court is now poised to wade into the debate over transgender athletes' participation in girls and women's sports when it convenes Tuesday to hear arguments on the two cases involving restrictions from Idaho to West Virginia. These justices are confronted with whether the measures violate the Constitution's guarantee to equal protection and Title IX, the landmark 50-year-old law that prohibits sex-based discrimination in federally funded education programs and activities. Now, the funny part about in particular first of all, one of the things that they talk about when they talk about the 14th Amendment, equal protection, is no one was talking about gender identity when they passed when the 14th Amendment was passed. That wasn't a thing. Now all of a sudden they want to throw it in there. But even more interesting, they now want to talk about they want to claim somehow that Title IX protects transgender athletes. And it in fact does not. Because once again, it was put in place to allow biological girls to have a place where they can compete and have an opportunity to be able to compete and win. Because it is a recognition that there are biological differences between biological males and biological females. Now, I realize there are some very, very strong and athletic women who are strong, or females who are as strong as and athletic as some men. But when you take the aggregate, when you take the average, or even if you take the mean, however you want to figure the average, on average, males are going to be stronger, they're going to be bigger, they're going to be faster than female competitors, than females, thus giving them a biological advantage when it comes to sports, a natural biological advantage when it comes to sports. And there's no way that women are going to be able to compete in general. All you have to do, just let's take track and field, for example. The average fee, if you were to just say, okay, well, look, because here's the thing. If you're not going to separate out for men and for biological men and women, then there's no reason to have it separate. Then why don't we just get rid of it and we'll just say the best compete against the best? The problem is that you would have men winning every single time. Women would not have an opportunity to fairly compete. When I say fairly, I mean compete on a playing field that is commensurate with their biology. I think, well, first of all, one only need to look at the makeup of the Supreme Court to know that this is going to be the case, that this is going to be a case that they're going to win. I'm hoping and I'm praying that they allow Ketanji Brown Jackson to write the dissent, because I'm looking forward to her as a part of law, something that will go down. I mean, it's already going to go down in history because she did it in her appointment hearing. But I really do, nomination hearing, that's what I'm looking for. I really do want to hear her sit there and say, yeah, no, that she doesn't know, that she can't define a woman. I really want to hear her say that. Because that then will just, once again, further prove the absurdity of the left. It will. It'll just further prove how absurd their positions are and reveal to America how absurd the positions of the left are, because they're the only ones defending this sort of stuff. And as long as they are, well, then the right, madness like this, we got a shot at continuing in power. But more importantly, I would rather they not be defending stuff like this and us be debating more important issues, more substantively important issues. But we're debating this one because it's important, because it shouldn't even be a thing. That's why I say there's some things when I say there are things that we have there where Republicans and Democrats have legitimate disagreements about. This is not a legitimate disagreement. Democrats are just being stupid. They just are. They're pandering and they're being stupid. All right, folks, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, and get your hog holster today. By the way, all of our parting shots today are going to be brought to you by the folks over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. The first one, Democrats fear Iranian love of freedom could spread to America. Well, it's already here. It just happens to be on one side of the aisle. Maybe the Democrats will start, wanting freedom as well, and not confuse it as Fisher Ames once said, confuse it with licentiousness. Anyway, here, Gotham's liberal women gather outside Arkham to protest the arrest of the Joker. And that just raises an interesting point, because I think the center of all of our problems when it comes to, if you want to look at one group that is the most faithful to the Democratic Party and to liberals and the whacked out liberal stuff that they're doing, it is college educated liberal women. Really, really bad. For those of you who watched football this weekend and were trying to find the game, NFL announces each quarter of playoff game will be broadcast on a different streaming service. That's kind of what it felt like trying to find the games this weekend. It's like, why can't we just have them on the normal channels? Just saying. All right, folks. Well, that's going to be it for today's show. Before we go, though, let's give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We got Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at hitmanindustries.net. We got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party at cragop.org. We've got a Hog Holsters. You can find them at hogholsters.com, HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, you've got the place where you can find all things tactical except a gun. That would be uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, that is going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program. We will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you